Look. I'm on tour right now.
It's the New OGs. The New OGs is a State Madison Entertainment production and is brought to you by Sun Life Solar. Sun Life is helping homeowners in Illinois take advantage of a program that lets them get solar power at no cost. That's right.
At no cost, Bobby?
No cost, man. Nothing out of pocket. If you are a single-family homeowner in the state of Illinois, you can lower your electric bill. You can raise the value of your home, and you can do something good for the environment without paying a single dollar out of your pocket to do so. In fact, Sun Life can only work with you if they can save you money. They've got to be able to save you money to even be able to work with you. Sun Life is a SunPower dealer, an American panel maker with over 30 years of solar experience, and Sun Life even has a referral program that pays out as much as $500 per referral, which a couple of those is probably more than your electric bill all year anyway. So head over to www.illinoissolar.today and get in contact for a free consultation or to refer someone you know. We're also brought to you. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that people heard you correctly, man. It sounded like to me that you said $500 for every referral.
Every referral, no cap. So there is no cap to the number of referrals. You can give as many as you like. If you know a bunch of people who own homes,
5 referrals, $2,500.
5 referrals, $2,500. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and up to a certain amount, whatever the state and federal laws allow, it's not taxable. But then after a certain amount, it is. Just check with your local people on that. But I'd rather have $15,000 and worry about how much taxes I got to pay on that than not have it at all, right? Oh, we got the Excel close up.
Let me tell you. That's just fucking amazing. That's amazing,
deal.
Bobby. That's a deal people need to take advantage of.
That is.
Say the website one more time.
It's www.illinoissolar.today. So you can go there and just fill out your information, and someone will get in contact with you. Someone from Illinois Solar will get in contact with you, and they can do an assessment of your home for free. And then if you decide to go solar, great. If you refer somebody, you can get $500. Even if you don't go solar, you can put your information in there and just say, I've got a friend who wants to do it. Can I get $500 for referring a friend? You can. You don't have to go solar to refer your friends either.
Bobby,
so.
I forgot to tell you about this in pre-production. I mean, it's real quick. It's only like a 15-second spot. We also have another new sponsor. A sponsor for the New OGs is specifically for our audience because we have a large male audience. Our sponsor is Dick Pills. Dick Pills. Get yourself Dick Pills. They work.
It's just a piece of information you're sharing with people?
It's a sponsor. It's a sponsor. Well, here's what I'm really trying to do. I'm trying to get, I don't want to say a name because I'm trying to get a specific Dick Pill sponsor to actually throw some money behind it. So I want them to know that we're pro Dick Pill because us being pro Dick Pill might cause them to, jump on board with the team.
Got it. So we're
the target demographic. OGs are the target demographic.
Got it. Okay. Well, sure, man. If you say so.
Hey, I'm Sammy Sosa. I'm Sammy Sosa in the bedroom, baby. I'm Dick Pilling it up. I'm
so no specific sponsor from XL, but just a request that all you guys who are in the Gen X age group go out and get Dick Pills.
Go out and get Dick Pills and tell them XL sent you. When you buy them at the gas station, say, how'd you find out about these Dick Pills? XL sent you. Dick Pill.
You know what they never ask you at the gas station? They never ask you, how'd you find out about these Dick Pills? They always just very quietly grab the ones that you were asking for, hopefully on the first or second try, and then they quietly give you the total, which is an embarrassing number usually. And then you take it anyway.
I'm going to let you know something. I look at Dick Pills, buying Dick Pills the same way I look at buying tampons.
Right.
I do that shit with pride. It means I'm fucking.
Right.
Nobody buys those for the novelty.
Exactly. Yes, that is true. We are also brought to you by People of Comedy.
Yes.
Well, we'll see how
Not
much
as
longer
important
after
as
today.
Dick Pills, but yes, we are here too.
Third in line after Dick Pills is
Yes.
the People of Comedy Network. That's a network that we're on. Shout out to James Webb.
Yay.
They continue to bring constant daily reports from the streets of Chicago where people are still out protesting. Surprise, surprise, people are still out protesting. I don't know if you know about that. People that don't pay attention to actual protesting, but it is still going on. Even in the places in which black lives may have been taken by other black lives, we are protesting that too. So I've seen a lot of challenges lately to the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and Elijah McClain and all. Like I've seen all these responses about, where are they? Whoa, so many shot and killed in Chicago over the weekend. Where are the protests over that? Well, if you don't know about the protests that happen over that and the people that go out and march over that, then that just means you don't go to those neighborhoods.
Yeah, or watch the right news or any of that shit.
When you say where are the protests over quote-unquote black-on-black crime, all that means is you're not paying attention. Because
there's a bunch of them.
There's organizations doing this shit all the time. You just weren't paying attention. This shit you're paying attention to.
Yeah. Also, how dare you deflect from, how dare you in one breath suggest the necessity for police and in another breath suggest that crime is out of control? What do you mean? I thought you guys were dope. I thought we needed you. What it seems to be is that as there are these issues, first of all, the crime, the homicide rate in Chicago is down, the crime rate in Chicago is down overall. So if you want to look at a weekend and go, this was a violent weekend, sure. But it used to be where they used to talk about how many people got killed over the weekend. Now it's about how many people got shot over the weekend. Because the kill number isn't as cool for people to use as their argument. Also, they never talk about how many of those people were actually black. Okay, 80 people got shot. How many were black? I don't know. How many people who shot were black? We don't know.
Everybody assume everybody was black.
They just assume it's all black people getting shot because they assume people only get shot. But when you look at the addresses even on some of those, it's like Humboldt Park, the north side, the northwest side, streets that start with K. Those are a bunch of Irish people that live over there. Hate to break Irish and Polish people. Sorry. Hate to break it to you. Shluski shot somebody up in that motherfucker. That's what happens sometimes because those guys got guns too. Surprise, surprise. There's a bunch of white people and Hispanic people and Asian people who have guns too. Okay, it's an American thing. It's an American thing. That's not local to one place. Anyway, XL, what's going on, man? How you doing? You looking sharp? You got the camera set right? You got the lighting right? I'm in my celebrity palace today.
I see you in your palatial podcast. Setup. I dig you, man. I dig you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get with the people here today. So I wanted to make sure I could. Maybe I break into the song "Imagine" later. We'll see how the day goes.
Wow, that'd be nice.
What's going on, man? How's your week?
Hey, man. I'm sorry. I don't have the rundown in front of me. So if you have this later, tell me. I'll shut up and they'll do it later. But I came to an epiphany about something that's happening in our community that I feel like is getting ignored.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get to that. Yeah.
Okay. I'll talk about that later. I'll wait till we get to that later so we can do it in the motion we have. Well, then,
what's going on in your week?
In my week, personally, I
think the dick pills covered it.
Yeah, the dick pills, man. I'm gonna let you know something. Pretty inexpensive dick pills and good Molly. That's a great fucking time. That is a great time. I don't give a fuck who you are. I don't give a fuck who you are. I don't give a fuck what your kinks are. I promise you, dick pills and Molly will make your weekend better.
Sure.
Unless you're lesbian, then that maybe just half of that.
I don't know. Who knows? It's not like it's yes, the actual physical body parts are different, but there's some nerves around there that might get the same type of excitement. You never know.
It's gonna make her clit tingle.
Well, they're vasodilators, right? So essentially what they're doing is they're sending blood to certain areas of the body. Now I don't know. I'm not sure. I would never try to assume what that would do for any woman, but who knows,
I stand corrected. For everybody, that's a good fucking time.
Give it a shot. Who knows? Try once and see what happens, It's, if your clit is erect for more than 4 hours. Oh, man. I think this week was an interesting time because the moving forward of the mechanics of what's going to happen now is starting to go on a lot more. Places are reopening, and so it's weird. I was having a conversation with somebody, and it really kind of struck me this week that I was on probably a 3 to 4 week bender of just traumatized level anger.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Just trauma level anger where I was just I mean, I feel like I came out of a bit of a trance this last week of just like depressed, upset, anger at all the stuff that'd been going on, and not just anger at the stuff that'd been going on, but like the lackluster, commonplace, all the same response kind of reaction to it that was adverse to what was going on. Like it just, I think a lot of people are like in anger hazes a little bit, rightfully so, right? Like I'm not apologizing for it, but I think it goes to show the level of anger that people are getting into, and I think like the Bubba Wallace shit with the noose is a prime example of that, right? Like,
yeah.
If you don't know, do you know about the Bubba Wallace shit, James?
Oh yeah, the supposed noose in the garage.
No, it wasn't news.
It was a noose for sure. It was definitely a noose.
So here's the thing.
I've heard multiple angles, so I don't know anything.
NASCAR released a picture of it. NASCAR released a picture of it. It's a news. It's for sure a news.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I know that it was already there and it had been there for a long time, but a noose is almost like a swastika to black people in America.
Right.
Like seeing a noose, especially like just dangling like that, that sends only one fucking message. Like there's no other and so just like I don't know if I could make a better correlation. I don't want to keep leaning on the swastika thing, but just like if a Jewish person walked into a place and saw a swastika, even if it had already been there, it would still be something to be like, why the fuck is that there?
Why is that here?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, so like, here's the thing is, I sent this to a couple of friends of mine who are black, and, you know, the question was basically like, what do you, like, when you see this picture, it was a picture at NASCAR released of what the news was. I go, when you see this picture, what do you think? And like the response is overwhelmingly like, yeah, I think fucking someone's doing some hate crime shit, right? Like because if you are black and you see a noose, this is this is the thought you have. My thought when I see news, when you say noose, when you hear noose, when I see noose, I think, oh right, like lynchings of black people.
Right.
And so the reason why, like,
I don't play the game Hangman. I play Execution. It's the same shit. But I'm not fucking. Why the fuck? I'm not playing that shit. I want nothing to do with no hanging.
So like the thing is like, okay, so that rope was hanging there, but it was out of all of the stalls they have. There's 1,684 garage stalls. Out of 1,684 garage stalls, it's the only one that has a noose in it, right? Now that may have been there for a while, or it may have been tied up one way, but it's the only stall out of 1,684 that has a noose. And the thing that it shows, in whether it's purposeful or not, what it shows on a bigger scale is how few black people are actually walking through the area.
Right.
Because if there was even, you know what I mean? Like the first person who was sensitive to Bubba Wallace was like, oh shit, that looks like a noose. We should call the FBI.
Yeah.
But before then, nobody had said a word because that is privilege or systemic racism, or it's like the fact that white people could walk past that every day and no one is sensitive enough to go, that would be offensive if somebody else saw this, right? Maybe we should look at doing something about this. Whoever did it, whether it was a joke or on purpose, should, you know what I mean? Like, and until Bubba Wallace gets that stall, no one has at least recognized that that's a potential issue. And so, like, and Bubba wasn't the person who found it. It was somebody on his team who came in and found it, and that's how that started. Yeah, and which means the reaction to that is a natural one. But of course, you know, I've already seen all the memes about Bubba Smollett and shit like that because for white people, they think that the fact that we would jump to thinking about that way about a noose is an implied idea that we're just making stuff up all the time. But what they don't recognize is like institutionalized trauma from generations of like being lynched. From the fact that like as recently as a few days ago, somebody on Instagram posted a picture of a house in Maryland where they had somebody hung in effigy.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like pro-Trump flags in the window, right? So it's like, you know, why would we not think that's what?
Well, and that's also to say nothing too of the actual real human beings who've been hung from trees in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, there's been 6. I think there's been 6 in the last 2 weeks.
It's fucking
who've been hung
insane
across the country. Black people,
and I think all of them,
public places.
all of them said that they've all been ruled suicide. Right. Some may still be some may be being investigated. I think one of them, the family said, yeah, we believe it's a suicide too because they found something.
Okay.
But everybody else is like, fuck no. And I know families don't want to believe that it's a suicide. And I saw some people get upset by people saying the thing like black people don't hang themselves. I know that that's not true. Black people commit suicide too.
Of course. Right.
And some may choose to hang themselves. However, I would say it's questionable that a black person would hang themselves publicly,
right,
in an area that would draw attention for some racist shit. Because if they were doing it to some reason, like to stun up for anything else, that I can't imagine an adult black person that wouldn't know what message would be sent by that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's just like, it shows at least at bare minimum. And the other thing too is like this was not like the NBA. This is fucking NASCAR, where the reputation is. You know what I mean? Like, you mean you got one black driver and one stall he's assigned to, and that happens to be the one?
Okay, that was Talladega they were in, right?
In Alabama, which is also not.
Yeah.
I've
been there. It's not a friendly place for black people.
I don't know how far that is from Tampa, but they said there was a giant Confederate flag that flew over it, and it was like this massive Confederate flag. And in Tampa, just like if you start heading south towards Miami, there's 2 ways to go. And there's a way that we always went, and I checked on navigation one time, and this other way was faster, and I didn't understand why we had always went the other way. And so I was like, guys, we're going this way. This is like 15 minutes faster, whatever. And as we drive, there's a trailer park that has a fucking Confederate flag that's so large that from my car I was frightened. Like, it was so massive, it was like screaming, "You are not welcome here." And I was on the highway. That's the same flag. They took that flag and flew it over Talladega from the back of a plane.
Well, if you really want to know about a place that's messed up down there, my buddy Rob Sakay, who is involved in a lot of like club promotion and stuff like that, and a lot of music business, wrote a post the other day about Mississippi. And how, like, Alabama was one thing. You could still fly through Alabama. There weren't that many officers, not that many, like, state troopers out there. But once you got to Mississippi, it was like 5 miles over, 7 if you want to be fancy. And the reason why is that Mississippi basically lives off of incarcerating black people. That part of the 13th Amendment about, like, once you're a prisoner, you're basically a slave again. Like, Mississippi is all about that. 40% of Mississippi is black. And yet they do not have black representation really in government. They are a largely carceral population that doesn't get the right to vote. And that is kind of why Mississippi works the way it works. And when you look at the statistics in Mississippi, education wise and economy wise, they're the worst. They're down at the bottom. And it's basically a modern day, de facto slave state, essentially. It's very tough if you're in Mississippi for a lot of people.
I think the only city that has a black leader with any kind of anything is Jackson. Kwame Lumumba he's dope, but he's on the island, man.
Yeah,
he doesn't have any like he was when they were trying to shut shit down. He wanted to shut shit down for coronavirus early. And he was like, I can shut down the city of Jackson, but what good is it if every city around me, we're a big city, all the suburbs around me are wide open. What good did shutting down do?
Well, it's like, listen, if 40% of your state is black, that's rival to like some urban cities, right? Like that population number, having that population of your state be black blows away, I think, any other state's population that's out there. Those guys aren't all Republicans. right? Like, like if your population's 40% black, you're not losing elections 60-40 where all the white people are voting Republican and the black people are voting. That's not how you're losing elections. You've just taken away the potential of voting or diminished the availability of voting for a bunch of black people, obviously, right? Like, that has to be the assumption that has to be made. I don't have the specific data, but I bet if I looked it up.
Bobby, it's definitely over 50% of the white people voting Republican. like, hey,
yeah, but the races aren't close, homie.
You say the N-word with the hard R. They Republican with the hard R in that motherfucker, man.
And some other, so that's the thing with the news is like, I wouldn't get on Bubba's case about it. That man's just trying to work and dealing with what he's got going on. But and some other pop culture moves for Black Lives, the Dixie Chicks have decided that they are no longer going to be the Dixie Chicks in moves that we almost don't give a fuck about. But hey, thanks along the way. We'll take that. Reparations is a long path,
Yeah, hey, but wait a second. No. Look, man. I'm starting a new trend, okay?
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop shitting on white people that's trying.
Right. Well, here's the thing. What can a Dixie Chicks do? Are they making money still?
I appreciate you. Even when you try and you miss.
I mean,
you're trying. If I believe you, some people Mitch McConnell, he's not. Fuck him. He's not trying.
No.
But he's doing that shit with a smirk. But the Dixie Chicks, I know they trying.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, what do the Dixie Chicks have to do? You know what I mean? They got one thing. They can take the Dixie out of their name. Other than that, it's just, all right, cool, thanks. You're in the news again. You've made it.
They're gonna have a shit ton of feminists coming at them for calling themselves the chicks now.
Now they got to deal with that back. They got a whole new thing they have to deal with. Now next week it's gonna be like the chicks have changed their names to the women. But spelled WOMYN. So, in some other news, Jenny Slate, who is a comedian, writer, actor, who is very funny. She played a character named Missy on Big Mouth, which is a show that Nick Kroll is on. And she is actually stepping away from the role because Missy is a black character and Jenny is not. And she thought this would be a good idea to get some black representation into a character, which I think is great. I have mixed feelings when it comes to this because Kristen Bell did the same thing. She plays Molly Tillerman on an Apple TV Plus series called Central Park. I think the character she plays is biracial, and it's definitely a thing where I would like to see more like representation by black people in black roles. But I also think that part of the fun of voice acting is being other people. And so if you would just cast more black people in white character roles, then we could start getting to a point where like you don't have to just cast people in their only roles, just start mixing this shit up and like cast an Asian person as a white guy, accent and all, and just have them speak normally and be like, yeah, sometimes white guys talk like this. If you were a white guy born in Japan, this might be the accent you'd have, right?
You know what I'd like to see? You know what I'd like to see? A movie with Will Smith as a white guy. That's what everybody wants. That's a win for everybody. White people have probably secretly always wanted that shit, and I think it'd probably be pretty cool. That'd be like that'd be the greatest animated feature ever.
You could get to diversity of casting without typecasting, right? Like you don't have to, like you could get a similar number of diversity going on amongst the people that you cast, but they don't all have to be these like, okay, you're black, so you play a black guy with black traits, and you're an Asian guy, so you got to have the Asian accent, so you can prove that you're Asian, even though we all know you're Asian. It's like that is not the type of.
What's incredible is Kristen Bell has been the voice in like several huge Disney or like animated films.
Yeah.
So she gets a shit ton of voiceover work. But like, I didn't even know she was on that Central Park show. Like they were totally wasting Kristen Bell because that would have been. I don't know. Kristen Bell was on the show. I think it's a Netflix show. I don't have Netflix right now. I'm purposely saying fuck Netflix because I don't appreciate that they keep asking me to come back and they're not offering me anything. They're just like, hey man, don't you think it's time to come back? No, Netflix. I think you charge too much. Give me a discount. Like, that's what most surfers do. They give you like, hey, we'll give you 3 months free, or we'll give you 2 months for this. They haven't tried that. They just been fucking like, it was like an abusive boyfriend. Hey, baby, don't you forgive me by now? No! No, Doug. I'm not forgiving you. Bobby's cameras off.
I lost you for a second.
Yeah, you still, well, according to
There
us,
you go.
it still said you lost me.
I'm here.
All
right. Yeah, we lost you for a second. I'm in there. I blew your rant.
So, wow, you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
I decided to step outside and give like the real deal close-up feel. I can't see this. I usually have a monitor so I can see what this looks like to the people on the screen. I have no idea what this looks like. I hope this looks okay and not really freaky or weird. I'm leaning way too close to the camera. I noticed that.
You're right into it.
Now,
there you go. You got the outer space going.
Yeah. Now you can see special effects and shit. I don't know. I'm high. That's why I was leaning too close.
Yeah. Just let it ride. So that's what's happened on those ends. On the other side, in the sports world, all these leagues are talking about coming back. Baseball's got a 60-game season planned. The NBA is talking about doing a season down in Orlando, but they just had 16 of the 302 players they're going to bring back test positive for coronavirus. So, and also Orlando at the airport, they had 260 positive tests there. So, like, that's the airport everybody's got to go to, which means they ain't going to work either. So,
check this out, man. I was listening to one of my all-time favorite sportscasters. One of my all-time favorite sportscasters, Keith Olbermann, who I believe he just recovered from coronavirus, and he went through. He said it's pretty rough. He was bringing up some things that I haven't heard anybody talk about, and it kind of shook me. He was like, "Look, the league. Everybody thinks that it's gonna be okay because these guys are young and healthy, and they don't have problems. Like, what they don't understand is, not just because you don't die from it doesn't mean you don't get damage. You could get like scarring in your lungs if you get like not really bad, but maybe you're just bad enough you don't have to go to the hospital. You can still get scarring in your lungs. And if Mike Trout gets scarring in his lungs, he's not Mike Trout anymore. You know, not to be dramatic or put that out there for Mike Trout. I'm just saying. Like,
but yeah, I mean, you pick the player on which player on your team would you be okay with? Like, which star player on your team of your top 3 or 4 players, which player would you like to see risk his entire future as an athlete over the idea that you wanted to watch him play in a playoff series? Like, you're gonna bring somebody back for a playoff series? He's gonna get coronavirus, they lose, he dies, he gets sick, comes back, he lives, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that guy's never the same. Why would we do that?
Yeah, it's not worth it just for the game, just so we have some entertainment. But there is thousands and thousands of movies and TV shows and specials and stuff. You have not watched all of Netflix. I don't give a fuck what you say. There's entertainment.
You're not even on Netflix right now, and you know. Speaking of which, you are on the Shy. Get Showtime. Get Showtime app and watch this man. He's on the Shy this year.
Next week, I believe, is my episode.
Nice.
Episode 3.
You have to cut about all of it just to watch that.
And Oberman, the thing that he really brought it home with was he was like, what if the rarest of the rare thing happens and some young player dies? Right. It's like, was your 60 fucking game season really worth that? Like, the damage of the image of some guy dying because he tried to play a fucking sport.
Exactly.
In the middle of a pandemic.
That's the issue.
Idiotic.
And in the meantime, we're in a period where we're actually everything's opening up. All these people are talking about their phase 4, phase 5. 25% to 50%, 25 people to 50 people in a gathering. But at the same time, like, the numbers aren't going down anywhere except in New York and Illinois, really. It's like, which by the way are the places that were the tightest. New York.
I thought New York started to go back up again.
They might have. I'm not sure.
But, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. There's so much shit going on. It's so up and down. But
trying to pull together the stories for this show every week is like, I'll look on Friday morning. I'll look and I'll get like 10 hours into the last 10 hours of stories that have come out, and be like, well, I don't have to go beyond this, honestly. Like, this is if this was just a news wrap-up show and not just talking about what's going on, like, this would have to happen a lot more often.
Yeah. It's pretty insane, man. And I mean, I don't want to get off topic, but this shit just won't stop with this motherfucker, dude.
We've had 57,000. We've had 57,000 new cases, 59,000 cases in 5 states in the last 3 days.
Oh,
59,000.
Ron DeSantis. They showed a clip on MSNBC this morning of Ron DeSantis ranting on like May 20th about how he was like basically like, "Ha! I told you, we're already into this. Everybody's talking about we did too soon. We were going to be just like New York, and now and look at this, blah blah blah." That was just May 20th, a month ago, that he was doing that, and like it was all good a month ago, but not now, buddy. Not now.
Yeah, no.
You look like a moron. You look like a fucking moron.
Well, all these places like Texas are now talking about shutting down again. There's a place in California, in Long Beach, I think, that opened
Texas
up.
is never all the way shut down anyway. They semi-shut it down the first time.
That's the whole problem, is that they got, and on top of that, have you seen the videos of these people at these meetings, at these city council meetings, who are up there talking about you're fighting on the devil's side against God's natural circulatory system.
Oh my
God! You
God!
wear these masks, and it's a infringement on our. It's like, what are you talking about?
I didn't run it because I thought I wasn't sure if it was in poor taste or not. But there was one woman who was like, "I don't want to wear a mask for the same reason I don't want to wear panties, because things gotta breathe. Things gotta breathe." And
that's exactly why you need to wear panties. Bitch.
I was going to do an ad for us, but I was pretty sure that Facebook wouldn't allow it. So
yeah, we would definitely like to not breathe that, okay? So why don't you just cover all that up?
Yeah. And,
but like the bullshit that's going around, there's people, I mean, there's literally people who are producing these fake laminated cards saying that it's breaking, like they have...
Yeah.
They
I don't have
these
to tell
fake,
you my condition.
ADA cards with the freedom to breathe act or whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, it's just, part of it makes me laugh, part of it makes me angry, and part of it makes me sad that we're so dumb because...
Hey, like, people keep getting fucked up with the word freedom, okay? Yes. They don't freedom has its limits. If we were free, like they try to imagine, we could murder people. You could murder people because I don't like that guy. Why'd you do it? I don't like him. He's an asshole. And I'm free. I'm a free guy. I'm free not to like this motherfucker enough to kill him. And obviously we don't. So there's constraints. There's lines, and the line stop is where your decision to be quote unquote free interferes with my fucking health.
Right.
Like, you don't get to do that. You don't get to make that decision for me because you don't want to wear a fucking mask. That's the most idiotic shit.
Yeah.
I literally today drove out to go buy a new bong. Drove all the way to the bong store. Didn't have a mask. Did not get out the fucking car. Drove my fat ass back home and got my goddamn mask.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the way it is. I mean, it's just, in the places that shut down completely, where people got on board with wearing masks, the numbers got lower. In the 6 Bay counties of Northern California, where the people, obeyed the ideas of shutdowns and all that shit, the numbers are way lower than the rest of California, which is off the charts. And so, it's just a continual issue of that, disrespect for just basic common sense. Listen to Doc. I mean, Pence is on TV this morning still not saying masks. He won't even say the word masks on television. You realize he referred to them as face coverings.
So, when I was young, even I'll be honest, all the way up until very recently, when I was young, I remember people complaining about the defunding of education, and I even felt as a young person, I was like, because I was a person who read encyclopedias when I got put on punishment. I'm not trying to say I was a nerd. That was all I had. That was the only thing I had in my room, so that was my only entertainment. So,
yeah.
But we don't have a society that can follow rules anymore, and I think defunding of education is one of the reasons why. Like, people are too stupid to understand science. People are arguing with scientists. Like, there was a woman, like you were talking about the city council thing. There was a woman like, I don't know where you all got your degrees, and like, bitch, I can tell by your accent where you didn't get none of yours. You don't have one. You're like,
so I think
I don't know. You graduated high school.
A weird thing that happened when the internet really hit was there's a generation that is basically, of my age and up, essentially, our age and up, essentially, that we weren't educated on being able, like, there's no, we were already out of, I mean, I was basically out of school, so there's no class on how to, like, negotiate what is real or not real and what you may find on the internet, right? Like, we just had to, like the way that I verify information is just from what I happened to learn because I decided I wanted to learn how to verify information, not because someone told me I should. And so there's a bunch of people that don't do any of that stuff. They don't because they don't, because why would they? Some people wouldn't even think that was a thing too. Like, how many stories have we heard in the last 20 years of parents going to their kids saying or signing up for wild shit, giving money away to fake Nigerian scams? Like, that is exactly what that is. The same way that they fooled you with that dumb shit, it's how you get fooled with this dumb shit. And there's a younger generation now that is being taught a little bit more about how to go through things, but there's still a lot of deception that goes on there. And so, until you can make that a part of the curriculum of education, since this is a thing that we're all using, right? Like, the internet is what's happening. We're going to be using that. So learning how to discern what you find on here as far as, like, what you're going to decide to buy into versus not is extremely important to teach to people at all ages.
Dude, like, of the many things that I have to do as a father, one of the biggest fucking things that I'm constantly doing is debunking memes to my fucking son. Like,
what a dumb waste of your time, right? What a dumb thing to have to spend. Like, of all the things you could be spending your time with your kid doing, what a dumb thing to have to spend part of your world doing is explaining to your kid how memes work.
Dude, it's not about how memes work.
And I don't mean like teaching them, but like understanding that, like, this is bullshit. This is how you figure out what's real.
Hey, that and just dude, you know how much of that shit, like, a group of friends start believing because they're all in the fucking whatever, and nobody fucking does the research. Dude, how many things did you learn as an adult that you remember that you were like, wait a second, and all your friends believe when you were a teenager? You know what I mean?
How many times did we stand in a room and say, look in a mirror and say Candyman a bunch of times? Or how many rooms did we say, I believe in Bloody Mary? I mean, if you believe that shit, for sure you're going to read some goofy, weird shit on the internet and believe that. Like, I remember running from an abandoned house as a kid with friends of mine because we got spooked over nothing. But for sure we were like, there's ghosts in there 100%. Like, because we're dumb and our heads hadn't formed solid yet. That's how that works when you're a young person. You're dumb and your heads haven't formed solid. It's also why adult men should be hitting on teenage girls.
Also, humans by nature are cowards. And so when you're in a dark, abandoned building and your brain hears the noise that doesn't make sense to it, it's like, get the fuck out!
Yes, but that is also a metaphor for what happens when people read information that doesn't make sense to them.
Yeah, there you go.
It's the same thing. I know you want to talk about this. The Black Lives Matter movement is still pushing on. As we talked about earlier, people are still protesting. I think one of the things that gets overlooked a lot in the Black Lives Matter movement is the fact that when we're talking about Black lives, we're actually talking about all Black lives. The pushback that you'll find from a lot of, I think one of the things, because people like to, there's a lot of white people who like to point to like one of like 12 black people essentially when they're trying to argue against Black Lives Matter. And I think you find overwhelmingly that the people that are black Republicans or anti-Black Lives Matter people are also people that are anti-homosexual, anti-transgender, they're usually religious, patriarchal, favored, like American traditional, white American culture assimilation style black people, essentially. Yeah. I mean, they felt that if they got into Black Lives Matter, they wouldn't get to fuck the same white women that they do now.
The craziest.
James just looked up.
The craziest thing about those dudes, about the people who you just described,
right,
is that they out of the same mouth, they would talk about their faith and their belief in America and the freedoms that America affords, and then immediately turn around and tell somebody else how to live their life.
Yeah,
I don't understand it. And right now there is I don't know what to call it. Epidemic doesn't seem like it's doing it justice. There is an epidemic of murder of black trans women in America, and like nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, and Milton and Dominique Fells, I think, were the two most recent. But there's been, I mean, you can go down the line to Layleen Polanco. There's also trans men who've had stuff happen to them. Tony McDade was a trans man in Tallahassee, Florida, who has a history of mental illness, who was also murdered.
Like these names should be part of the discussion for all the same reasons. Like everybody should be able to live. It's disgusting, and I actually I want to admit I have not done enough, and it's going to be part of my voice a lot more, because I had a moment today. I heard about it. I started to turn away, and I realized that's the same thing white people have been doing to us. They knew about it. They knew it was fucked up. But it wasn't exactly their story. So they, oh, that's too bad. Somebody should do something about it and change the channel or whatever. And I realized that we talk about a lot of stuff on the show. We hadn't talked about it. And it's going to be part of something that I obviously make my politics and my feelings about things known on my pages, and this is going to be something moving forward that I'm going to try to make part of that, to give it a voice, to give those names the respect and honor that they deserve, and that those cases get investigated and they get the same type of justice that everybody else gets.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. Those are people. Those are black people. Those are and that's really all that matters. And their lives are valuable to the same equality as everyone else's are. And whether it's the dumb shit that people yell out of cars, whether it's the abuse, whether it's, a story that was brought up recently about, I think this happened not too long ago, where a guy, killed a transgender woman, came back and killed her, and then left and came. Whether it's the dumb shit that people yell out of cars, whether it's the abuse, whether it's story that change. And so there are protests that are going on tomorrow. Activate Shy is trying to get 50,000 people into Grant Park to protest for all black trans lives mattering as well. There's a bunch of info on that if you go to activate.shy. It's tomorrow. I think it's Sunday actually at 11 o'clock. That's when that protest is going on. So it's Sunday. It's a great grassroots organization. Obviously going to be in support of all LGBTQ plus rights, but Black trans lives do matter, and that's an important thing that I think needs to be pushed more often than isn't pushed enough. And when we look at the community, the entirety of Black life in all aspects. And I think that it's funny because when you look at a lot of the phrases that white pop culture picks up, those are not just Black phrases. You know, "Hey girl" is not just a Black phrase. Like,
Yeah.
you know, "Yas queen" is not just a Black phrase. That is a, gay phrase. That is a gay Black phrase. That is a trans phrase. That, you know what I mean? Like, that is not originating in the straight white male community for sure, nor is it originating in the straight white female community. Drake,
like 2 albums ago, like his whole joint, like the jump off to like half the album was a trans female artist in New Orleans that he kind of didn't give any love to. I mean, he did. I can't remember the joint, but like she opens up the joint and takes it off, and the whole track, the track is actually hers, and he remixed it and did his thing over it, and his shit was dope. I'm not saying it wasn't. He let her shine on the thing, but I don't think he really acknowledged her. Other than, he put on the track, but I had to look up who she was. It wasn't like featuring or anything like that.
Right.
There was no, and it was anyway. Sorry.
No, you on it. In other areas, the protest continues. The coverage does not. The rioting and looting has died down in a lot of places. Not in Virginia. It's hot in Virginia right now. There's a kid who is, I think, killed there. And so Virginia's been hot lately. They were trying to take down General Lee's statue, and so there are a group of armed Black men who are actually surrounding the statue, and then off beyond that, a bunch of white men. Oh yeah, not to protect it. They're trying to pull it down. They're supposed to be removing it, but there's been all these injunctions to stop it. So essentially, they're making sure that white anti-protesters can't get there and keep them from pulling it if they can get it down.
Oh.
So there's an encampment set up around General Lee's statue right now, basically.
This is amazing. That's so poetic.
Yeah. Yeah,
wow.
They're keeping the white people from protecting the statue, essentially. So the statue is supposed to be preserved, but there is a whole bunch of shit written on it if you look up the General Lee statue in Virginia. But outside of that, the concept of rioting and looting is just not happening, despite the fact that it's being pushed. In the meantime, police continue to prove that they are failures at their job. It's crazy because the violence only happens when they show up. There's still more shit about them doing shit when they show up. California was another place where there's been something happened to somebody down there, and they went and protested, and they fired tear gas and shit right into people's face. And then in Milwaukee recently, there were 2 teenage girls that were missing since last Sunday, and they were found mostly because a neighborhood group got together and started going house to house looking for them. And then the police, in an attempt to try and keep them at bay, participated in potentially covering up the whole thing. And there's been, Milwaukee's a place that's been long suspected to have a lot of sex trafficking issues that the police are involved in. They specifically handled this in a way that was very suspicious in regards to whether they were involved in some way. The house that I think the girls were found in, the police went into and didn't find the girls. But then that's where the girls ended up being found in later. But that's connected to people who are connected to other people who are connected to cops in some way. So wow. Milwaukee's shady like that, man. Milwaukee's got a bad sex trafficking history. In fact, before the show, we were talking about how when Jeffrey Dahmer was doing his thing, there was one real major story about one of the victims who had run out of Dahmer's house naked in the streets. And it was a Black guy, and he found cops, and the cops returned him to Dahmer. And I think one of those cops or both of the cops just retired last week.
Yeah, so I thought it was both of them.
You want to talk about the punishment that happens when something like this goes on? We talk about when people are sitting here yelling about Black Lives Mattering, this is what we're talking about. Because if that was a white chick, if that You know what I mean? If that was Amber who had been missing in Milwaukee, and
Reggie,
a black girl,
and it was Reggie Dahmer.
Yeah, they'd have never let that go down.
Tyrone Dahmer.
If that was Tyrone Dahmer, and there was a white naked dude who came running out the house saying, Tyrone Dahmer's eating people, he's going to eat me too, you would not return that white boy to Tyrone Dahmer. You would go and rescue all the rest of them people. If Amber was up in some house, you'd be tearing down them houses. So now the response from the community was to burn down that fucking house. They burnt down that house. They burnt that house all the way down to the ground, and the van that the person had connected to the house. They burnt all that shit down. That shit is gone now. It is.
That's what's up. Gone. That's what's up.
So sometimes it does work in your favor. Cops are calling sick in. They're calling in sick all over. A bunch of transit.
What do they call it when they call in sick?
What was it the white flu?
Yeah, the whiteout.
The
blue
whiteout.
flu, but they call it a whiteout.
A whiteout. What's the white got to do with anything?
That's exactly what I said.
What's that got to do?
I thought it was all lives.
Right.
Why you only talking about whiteout?
It's weird. Where are the All Lives Matter people about them kids at the border?
Because when they say all lives, they really mean white. When they say
right,
lives,
they really mean white.
They're calling in sick all over. I will say this. There is some good news that's coming out of this. Minneapolis has voted to abolish their police department. They had a 12-0 vote. They're going to replace their police department with Department of Community Safety and Violence Prevention.
That's so dope, man. That is so amazingly dope.
This is a massive, I mean, so we were talking about this before the show too. Like George Floyd got killed about a month ago.
So,
like it's the 25th. We're within like a month of when George Floyd got killed.
Hey, can I tell you my crazy conspiracy theory that I think is about to happen?
Sure.
I bet you that there's going to be, just like you saw when the original George Floyd protests began, white, what turned out to be police officers, started all the vandalism and promoted all the looting. I would not be surprised if we saw similar activity with officers, especially if there are officers who are not able to retain a position on the new type of force.
Yeah.
Like if there are people who maybe they had, because I can't believe that guy was the only guy who had 17 fucking violations. I bet you there's a bunch of guys with like 9, 10, 11, 12. Probably some guys with 20.
Homie, the president of the union the president of the police union in Minneapolis has 29.
Wow.
The president of the police union has 29.
Those
steps that we
Which way you think that guy is?
Right. I mean, the steps that we talked about over a few weeks ago over like how police don't end up getting in trouble for anything. I mean, that's it. That and the impunity shit. I mean, if your defense can be, well, nobody's ever gotten in trouble for doing this before, well, then you ain't ever gonna get in trouble for doing some shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the impunity shit is basically like, well, if nobody's ever gotten in trouble for putting a knee on somebody's back before, then I can't get in trouble for it either. Well, how would you ever get the first guy in trouble for it if you don't? I mean, qualified immunity is like that doesn't make any sense.
You know, I'm trying to think of. I wonder how they can restructure places that don't want to get rid of their cops altogether. How they can restructure police oversight in a way that it can be independent. Like there would have to be a full-time independent prosecutor for like every county with a team of prosecutors that could handle, you know, if you have a large county, maybe you have a certain amount of prosecutors.
Separated from the police force completely, though.
Yeah. And they would have.
I mean, one of the issues now is that they work hand in hand with them.
Yeah, precisely.
You know? I mean, that's what happens. You look at the Wire, and it's not. These prosecutors go in there and they sit down and they tell the police officers exactly what they need to be able to get a conviction.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? Like, no, that's not how that works. You gotta. Well, the other thing too is like the reality is that we should be working on improving the conditions for people in the communities to limit the idea that like the black market is a necessary route. You know, by creating treatment centers for addiction, by creating use centers so people can go in and like be able to use at a moderate level and potentially wean off while you job train and educate and get people ready to work in some type of a thing that's actually rewarding to them. You know, but part of that also requires people finding a way to create jobs that are appealing, that work. I mean, part of the issue is that we work 40-hour weeks, but that's pretty arbitrary, right? Like there's the fact is if you spend 20 hours working and that could afford you to live your life, then you have so much time to do things that you thought could be contributions, or you know what I mean? But there's a compound amount of issues that push people towards crime that we could work to alleviate in a manner in which we could really limit the amount of crime that's going on and part of that would be making it less of an economic opportunity for people on the other side of that, right? For the jailers. That has to change. That it shouldn't be an economic opportunity for jailing people. It should be an economic opportunity for making people better. For how can we improve this person, find treatment for them, find a way to fix what we can that's broken, and teach how to like work through some of the things that aren't, so that they can have a shot also in the world. Because I think that's you know, care not punishment, I think can work a lot better. And you know, that doesn't mean you're not going to find somebody who has a difficult time or rebels against. I mean, of course, that's always going to happen. But there's so much of what goes on right now that is about punishment. You know, even, you know, we talked a few weeks ago about traffic stops alone. The concept of traffic stops is largely just a punitive action, right? Like pulling me over for a broken taillight and then writing me a ticket for it is an insane concept to me, right? Like this thing broke somehow, not because I was back there banging on the fucking thing. Obviously, it wasn't like I was like, fuck this taillight and broke it. So like an accident happened to my car. Everything is working fine. You know what I mean? Like, why don't you let me know, and then I'll go do some shit. What do you mean you're going to make me pay money now to the state for that, to the city? That's insanity. That is not. And knowing you have that, and also knowing that maybe, you know, you have some other dumb issue that's gone up that's also idiotic. You got caught with an ounce of weed or something like that. And now, you know what I mean? Like, those compounded actions is what create situations in which people freak out and do stupid shit.
Dude, the last time I got stopped, the cop stopped me because he said the light over my license plate was out.
I've gotten one of those.
Which it was not.
Right.
But, in that moment, I didn't know that it was. I didn't know whether it was or wasn't. And, you know, it's not like I have the luxury as a giant black dude to get out of the car and go, hey, look, you know, if I made any sudden movement like that, it would have been a hashtag a couple years ago. So,
so let's talk about the homie who's running this whole fucking show into the ground. He had his Tulsa shit going on. His Tulsa shit garnered about 6,000 people. They shut down the outside overflow venue early into the night.
Hey, Trump had a very, very horrible, miserable, bad week. Like, the Supreme Court hit his ass twice. Didn't nobody come to his little party. The poll said he was down 14%. Even Fox News, the Fox News poll had him down 14%. He's losing in like all the states. Like, he's losing in Texas right now. Like, that's insane. In Texas,
I mean,
Tejas.
all Joe has to do is
and that was before they got hit. That was before they got, those polls were taken before they got hit with the goddamn virus. That he refuses to wear a fucking mask because he's a pussy.
I think that the three of us spent a lot of our world in a left to far left part of the world. And I think that even we underestimate how much the moderate population of the United States feels confident about Joe Biden in ways that we do not. I think we like that seems like it should be surprising to me, but there's a lot of people who are just trying to like keep like to them getting back to normal as in just before this virus it would be perfectly fine for them. And the fact that it's not, they feel that like this is definitely a Trump issue that Joe Biden would not be dealing with. As much as I am not sold.
Bobby, this is what I think it really is America dated a guy that seemed nice. It turned out he was an asshole. She got her heart broke. She's crying. And even though Joe isn't the type of guy, like Joe is way below her standard, he's safe. She knows, right. America knows Joe's not going to break her heart. Joe's just going to be there. And Joe's a rebound guy. Okay?
Joe's like, let me just date a nice guy for a little while.
That amazing Obama 2.0 when Michelle finally decides to run and she goes super progressive.
It's like he's not handsome, but he eats pussy really good. That's got a lot of problems. You know what I mean? Sleeps on an air mattress. Job doesn't pay well. Can't really afford to go out for a great night, but man, not a great looker. But he's got this one thing, and it's that he doesn't fuck up this part, right? Like this is the one part he can do right, and that is essentially Joe Biden. Trump's response to that was to go hard with the racism. He's been hollering about Kung Flu all week. He's continued to lie and say they're doing a great job. The result on this, on the Asian American community, has not been awesome, which is not a weird thing to suggest. And it's weird because they tried to come out and say he jokes about a bunch of shit, but he likes to remind people he does not kid.
Yeah.
He likes to remind people he doesn't kid.
I don't know if did you see? I think it was a Daily Show. They had it like it was a comedy, like it was a comedy tour album, like a comedy album. Donald Trump, greatest hits, and it was him saying horrible shit, and then one of his aides saying, "Oh, you know, he likes to kid. He's kidding." After he's saying like all these different horrible things, and then it ends with, "Sir, were you kidding?" And him saying, "I don't kid." Like,
I mean, he set himself up to lose this election literally with the clips that he's made available in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy literally went in front of a bustling crowd of 6,000 people and said that he said to slow the testing down.
Yeah.
And then denied that he was kidding about it. Denied he was kidding. Like said that his logic was the more tests we have, the more positive cases we have. So I said slow the testing down. And when his people were like, "Nah, he was just kidding. He was just kidding," he was like, "I'm not kidding. I don't kid."
Imagine being Joe Biden, right? Imagine being Joe Biden, where people already think that you might be a little bit delusional, a little bit like Law said, and then this motherfucker is saying shit like, "I told him so to test it down." Joe has to be sitting in his room like, is this really happening? Did I imagine this? This can't be real. He didn't just say that.
Joe is sitting there going, so we do have the technology where we can get that clip, right? Because Joe doesn't know how anything works. We can get it, right? Are we recording this?
So the kids see it.
Are we recording this right now? I want to record this so we can get it later.
Hit my phone. Hit the
take a picture of it.
Tell it to go backward.
Yeah, that was probably Joe's reaction to that. While all this is going on,
Joe Biden might be the motherfucker that sets up the home stereo system. You know, like, oh, Joe might, hey, you know, like I used to do this back in the day with a guy named Popsicle. Yeah, he used to steal them, and I used to hook him up. That's what we did. Oh, good old Popsicle. He was a colored.
And what I mean by that is he wore blackface at parties.
I don't do it. I don't do voice. That's just thoughts of Joe Biden.
Those are thoughts of Joe Biden. That's what we need to throw out. We need to have some thoughts of Joe
Shit
Biden.
that Joe Biden might actually say.
We need some thoughts of Joe Biden. That's what we need. We need some thoughts of Joe Biden.
Son of a bitch is giving me the game.
Speaking of, stay in your hole, Joe. Stay in your hole.
Is anybody watching Russia? This feels like about the time Russia's going to kick in.
China's a new request. He's asked China to help. And didn't you hear Bolton's book is out? And by the way, I have the PDF of it. If anybody wants it, I can email you.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much for that. PDF. Bolton refused to testify during the time we were trying to impeach Trump. Yeah.
No, but you didn't say you don't have the PDF, but you know how to get the PDF. Is what you're saying. No,
I have the PDF.
You don't know how to have the PDF. You know how to get the PDF.
I legally have a PDF.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if I bought the book and let you borrow it, what's the difference between me doing that and me sending you the PDF?
The law.
Come see me. You know what I mean? Come see me about it. Tell me what's wrong with that, X.
Hey, Bob. I just want you to know that I'm pretty certain that you're not distributing a copywritten book that was just released this week for free. But if I own a book and you could probably tell them where you saw it at last online somewhere.
I own the book. If someone would like the book, I can share my copy of my book with them.
How about that? Bam.
That's a thing that you can do.
Boo-boo.
Like any book you own, you can share that copy of a book.
Library.
So Bolton's book is out. He doesn't want that to happen. Mary Trump is actually putting out a book. His sister. You don't want that to happen either.
Hey, did you see who's blocking it? Did you see who's trying to block it?
No.
Bob Trump. Do you know
who Bob Trump?
Exactly.
Where'd Bob Trump come from? Who the fuck is Bob?
Completely out of left field. Here comes Bob Trump.
Nestor Trump. Matt Gates' kid just goes to get.
Apparently, they have a younger brother named Bob.
Get the fuck out of here.
I'm not kidding. This is real. Google it. James, could you please, if you haven't just Google Bob Trump. I'm not fucking with you. He's the one suing to stop his niece's book. And here's the thing. Apparently, Bob hates
is Donald's niece.
The guy who wrote the book. What's the name of his book? Art of the Deal. Yeah. The guy who wrote Art of the Deal for Donald Trump says that Bob hates Donald. Donald.
Tony Schwartz is the guy who wrote that book.
So there's
Tony Schwartz. Tony Schwartz says that Bob hates Donald and that Donald must be doing something, threatening him in some way with money or something to make him do the lawsuit.
So there's
that's the fight that's going on, but it's not going to happen. That book's going to end up out too. As soon as I have the PDF of that, you can get that too, because I don't think the Trump family deserves any money at all. They're doing just fine. They're billionaires, right? So don't worry about them.
We'll see how much they get to keep when
everything happens and they go to jail.
Right? Yeah. In the comedy world, comedy is trying to make a comeback. There are some locations that are doing better than others. D.L. Hughley, he was at Zany's in Nashville last weekend. He didn't walk out on his own. He got stretchered out after he collapsed or passed out. Turned out he had COVID-19. He is doing okay, but obviously, I mean, you and I have we've been on the stage. You know what it looks like. You talk, you see your own spit come flying out because the lights are so bright.
Yeah, it's hot as fuck. It's bright.
It's hot. It's bright. You get worked up. You know, if your act has any physicality at all, you're all over the stage emoting.
And he was already just dehydrated in general, apparently. Did you see he got kicked out of his hotel when he got released from the hospital?
Because he had the corona?
They knew he had to, like they wouldn't let him go back to his room.
That's wild.
And I don't know if they gathered his shit. I don't know how it worked out, but they kicked him out of his hotel.
That's so crazy, dude.
Yeah. So I don't know how, but he has enough money that finding some place to quarantine, I'm sure, was a possibility.
I mean, the only thing that's changed about the virus is nothing. Like nothing. There's no new vaccine for it. The only thing that's changed is that there's more ventilators now, and there's more room, and there's more room in hospital beds, and they built enough coffins for everybody. That's the only thing that's changed, is that they are more ready to deal with the sick people once they get sick. The only reason they're putting everybody back out to work is because there's an election in November, and if they don't have some type of an economy going, they believe truly that this thing was going to get wrapped up in the bud somehow, and they were going to get away with like kickstarting the economy again. But it's not going to happen, man.
Everybody assumed, and Fauci was the only one I heard caution, really, but everybody kind of really leaned into that the hot weather was going to slow it down or make it dissipate.
90 in Austin, nigga. What are they doing down there? They're getting 5,000 cases a day or some shit, man.
Yeah, and when that shit didn't happen, now everybody's like, oh, shit, it's a fire! It's like, it's just like they're surprised.
The hottest spots are in the warmest places right now. Texas, California, Florida. That's where it's hot right now. Yeah. And it's literally because those are the places where there's a bunch of fucking people. There's a bunch of fucking people in those places that are on that 5G conspiracy. You're not gonna tell me I do what I want. Fuck your shit. Like, it's those people. I'll come in your face and spit in your eye and crawl on your child and argue with you about health even though I don't have a degree and all this other shit. Like,
okay. I don't believe in putting bad things out in the world. Like, I don't want to say evil things, and I don't wish this to happen. But I almost feel like people who say that, they should just get the virus shot right in their fucking face.
Just right in their face.
Okay, is that how you feel? Really? Splat! And let them fucking deal with it. And then if they come out the other side triumphant, hey, you were right. You're a goddamn hero. Go lead your army. And if they die, well, hey, that was your freedom.
Well, again, it's like we talked about.
Let the rest of us be safe.
It's like what we talked about last week, right? That, like, in resolved cases, it said about 11% death rate, which means it's a little over a 1 in 10 chance that if you get the virus, you are going to die. And the other 9 people, some of those people are going to be just fine. But there's going to be some of those people who are going to be, like you gave in your Mike Trout analogy, like there's going to be some people who will never be the same again.
Also,
who have hospital bills and missed work and all types of shit that go on along with that.
Something I just heard this morning that no one's even considered is we don't know what the long-term effect of coronavirus is going to be. We don't know. Like, if 30 years from now it reemerges in your system as something else. Right. If anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, chickenpox is a virus that you get, and you get it when you're a kid, and it comes back when you're in your 60s as the shingles. It's the same fucking virus. And
sometimes
never
you're even younger.
Yeah. There you go.
I know somebody who got it at who got shingles at like 28.
Oh wow! So there you go. And so there you go. Like, not a fun time, but no. That's how some viruses work, and we don't know because this is a novel virus. Again, we didn't know. We thought that it was gonna or I say we scientists thought. I'm siding with scientists. I'm not saying I'm one of them, but scientists thought that the heat was gonna fucking kill it. It didn't. So saying that. Oh, that's not going to happen. You're just trying to scare people, or you don't know that's going to happen. You're right. I don't know that's going to happen. That's the whole point. We don't know. So if you can avoid getting it somehow, some way until there's a vaccine, I suggest that you avoid getting it. Getting it and trying to get the antibodies or something, there's no evidence that the antibodies protects you from shit. And also there's no evidence that getting it means that you can't get it again, and there's no evidence that getting it means that you're going to be okay forever.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird time to try and talk about going back out to stores and restaurants and clubs when there's literally been no change in what's going on other than we've decided that we're going to send people back out.
It's the
only thing we've done is we've just decided that we're like, nothing has gotten improved about dealing with the virus other than the capability to have a bed for you. And even in some places like Houston, they're like 3 beds shy of being full. So,
what we're doing right now in Illinois is like talking about sending kids back to school in the fall. It's literally like we watching a horror movie about Camp Crystal Lake, in Camp Crystal Lake, and people are disappearing as we watch the movie about somebody murdering people, and we just keep sending people out one by one to go look for everybody else that's missing.
It's all good. It's all
and not pick it up.
You've done nothing. Yeah. It should be fine now.
Yeah.
You've done 0 things. It should be great.
Hey, that thing that you're watching happening over there, it's gonna fucking happen to you.
There's a Stephen King book called The Mist. It's a short story, actually. They made a movie out of it. I think they made a TV show out of it or something. But what happens essentially is it takes place largely in a grocery store because the mist hits while people are in this grocery store, right? And this mist envelops this town. It's at the door of this grocery store trying to break in, and there's all these elements where people are getting pulled into it and all this other shit. Now imagine if that thing happened and then it just never went away, and people are just like, well, we're just going to walk out into it now. Like that is like, I'm sure it's fine, even though we've done nothing to prove that it's fine. We're just going to walk out into the mist now. Like that is essentially what's going on with this. And I think it's yeah.
You ever watch like one of those disaster movies, or like where like people are trapped in something and one of the guys goes stir crazy, or like The Matrix, that dude that turned because he just couldn't take it anymore of living in that type of world. Like
Joey Vance, when he get plugged back into the system.
Yeah, like dude, there's like way too many of those people. Like they in that movie they made it like it was one guy. But apparently, looking at how many people are protesting wearing masks and complaining about wanting to go back, they should have made it like 4 or 5 guys on the squad. There should have been a whole mutiny.
Outside of wondering when comedy is going to come back, when it does, how it works and how it looks is potentially going to be a little different. There's been a lot of comics since this whole Aaliyah shit has popped up who have put a lot of stories out there of their own issues. We're guys in comedy. We are not unfamiliar with the fact that that is a thing that has gone on over the years in comedy. Megan Gailey put out a whole statement about an experience she had going overseas. And so there's been a lot of support and a lot of stories that have come out on that end. There's a story about Jeff Ross that came out from someone who's had something going on for a couple of years called I Was 15 and He Was 33, which is very hard to read, honestly. It's a difficult thing to read about. D'Elia has responded to some of the claims that have been made against him. They tried to go after Joey Diaz, but the amount of people that spoke up in support of Joey Diaz and the lack of, additional... no one ever made any complaint, honestly, about Joey specifically. Like, no actual woman stepped forward and said anything. It was literally just based on a story he told on a podcast. And I think the people that got more heat were the 2 other guys that were there, Rogan and Redband, who laughed at the story that he told instead of admonishing him for it, than him actually telling a wild story.
Yeah.
But we've talked about this before. It's important to stop creeps from being creeps. It's important to be a solid person when someone comes and tells you someone is being a creep and stand up for that person. Megan Gailey put that story out. D'Elia has tried to respond to those texts that were put out and emails put out with some of his own that were follow-ups, but still some of the before they were old enough shit is still a little creepy, which is people should be able to be fans of an adult person without having those interactions be sexual when they happen. As the father of a 14-year-old, that's probably that should be an obvious position for me to take, but I think that should be an obvious position for anybody to take.
Yeah.
There's so many adult women.
I'm saying, say again?
There's so many adult women. There's so many.
Oh yeah. So many adult
like
women.
a bunch of single adult women.
The men sexualize young girls in so many ways, so many disgusting, incredibly disgusting ways. And even as I don't have a girl, I have a son, but he has a sister. His mother has a younger daughter that's a few years younger, and I'm constantly telling my son like things to look out for with his little sister.
Yeah.
At school with like interactions with boys and stuff. Like, hey, just because they're your homies, don't think that they won't, be trying to talk to her and stuff like that. You have to watch that shit.
Yeah.
Uh, um,
And you got to talk to those guys and got to tell those guys like, hey man, there's a different route to this. There's a, the difficulty is that I am not a believer. I don't believe that sex is bad. I don't believe that sex is a thing you got to wait for till marriage. I think sex could be a fun thing that mature adult people can do, should do, can do. But there is a responsibility that goes on with it, and it's one of the heaviest weighted responsibilities around, potentially. But I think you can be honest about one thing and honest about the other thing, and not have those things be a problem, right? Like the idea that there is attraction between men and women before they're adults, or that women and men get attracted, they have attractions before they are at the adult age, whether that's for people their own age or people that are older. I think it's important to help them understand that having those and learning how to respectfully and responsibly and at some point maturely be able to go about those and be on the lookout for people who would try and take advantage of that are all vital parts that, again, so much of what we've talked about even today, the stuff about policing and caring versus punishment, is all about how interactive you are with young people properly before they're already fucked up, right? Like, how early can you get to people before they're too fucked up to be able to deal with that anymore? And we worked harder at, I think, intervening in producing better people from youth on. The result at the end wouldn't be one you'd have to punish so much, right? So anyway, I think that about does it for this week. What you got going on, man? Anything going on this week, or you still?
Actually, yeah, I am part of. Check my website on Facebook or Twitter. I will post a link on Sunday. I'm doing a story type comedy thing on international comedy online thing, so that should be pretty fun. It's shooting out of Canada. I don't know if there's anybody else from the other countries other than America and Canada, but it's going to be dope. And I'm sorry, I can't think of the name of it right now. That's why I say, but check me, to find me on XL Comedy on Twitter, XL Comedy Show on IG, and Xavier Lamont on Facebook, or XL Comedy on Facebook.
Nice. State Mass Entertainment did put out a release this week talking about the fact that they are still moving full steam ahead with great thanks to People of Comedy and Put 'em Over Productions for the work that they've done along the way to help us get to hear all the comedies and venues we work with. But there's an article that came out this week in the Chicago Tribune that actually opened with the daring phrase that comedy in Chicago is dying simply because an improv theater was closing. And State Mass Entertainment wanted to make sure that the city of Chicago knew that comedy was definitely not dying here. In fact, the comics also would agree that comedy is not dying here. In fact, there are talks going on right now for even more specials to get done. We still have things in the work for as soon as, we're able to fill audiences again. And we have some contingency plans working around that too. And I'm sure that, James and People of Comedy have a ton of shit they're working to do too. So comedy is not dead in Chicago. You can follow me at Mocha_Jesus on Twitter and Instagram. Go follow New OGs at New OGs Pod on Twitter and Instagram. We will be back here next week. Make sure you catch us. Episode 51. This was episode 50. We've done 50 of these things. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Make sure you go find us wherever you listen to pods and subscribe and rate for us there. We will catch you all next week. That's it. That's what's up. We out of here.
Mike Singletary. That's the only number 50 I can think of.
Go ahead. That's the one you had.
Who else wears number 50? I can't think of anybody else.
Nobody that matters.